Hey Kaylee, are we gonna do JJ Squawkers today? Wanna do JJ Squawkers? Yeah, okay. Yep. Now, George R.R. Martin said that crows will fight each other over a dead man's flesh and they will kill each other over the eyes. Now, that is a fitting quote for JJ Squawkers, a crow that transforms murdering millions of his fellow forest dwellers into an art form. Now, welcome back to the channel, you sassy little nasties. I, of course, am your host, the Nasty Bee. Now, this game was brought to my attention by a Thomas Jenkins, a longtime viewer of the channel, and he also suggested that I check out the game Toilet Kids on the PC Engine, so you get an idea where his brain is at. But he also suggested that I check out Alien Hominid and Castle Crashers. Both were fantastic games. Kudos to you, sir. You are a legend. Now, Mr. Jenkins' suggestion could not have come at a better time, seeing as how after I recorded my Blues Journey video, my capture card on my new PC took a shit, which means I can't capture footage from any of my consoles behind me. So we've got an arcade game to the rescue. We're going to be playing this one on MAME. It's a real short game too, so it shouldn't be too long to get through and to review. It'll just be like the golden days, back when my videos were like 8 minutes long. Let's get to it. JJ Squawkers was released only in arcades in Japan by developer Athena in 1993. Despite only being released in Japan, the entire game is presented in terrible English for your maximum enjoyment instead of Japanese for some reason, even though it wouldn't be a hindrance if it were, since it doesn't matter at all in terms of playing the game. The plot mainly consists of a bird that shoots and kills literally every other living animal on the planet with tons of silly weapons, and later on in the game you'll enjoy murdering strange mythical beasts like centaurs and whatever else kooky shit the developers could come up with in the 10-hour or so periods they were tripping their balls off on LSD.
Oh God. Did you eat all this acid?
That's right. Music!
The bird you play as is a straight-up genocidal maniac, but this is our main protagonist, so we're all in for the ride. I'm sure JJ has his reasons, with the main reason that he loves murder, because that's what crows do. Now, I think there's a story here, though I'm not exactly sure what it is, but we get some clues at the end, and I'll definitely go over that the best I can in a bit. JJ Squawkers, or as some people have come to refer to it, JJ Piss and Shit, is a run-and-gun platformer. You know what that means. It's similar to games like Contra or Metal Slug, which I'm sure you've heard of if you were born before 1990. And yeah, I'm old, I don't give a shit, and it is one of those shooters where your shots aren't automatic. Therefore, you're going to be mashing the fire button thousands of times before you beat the game, and you probably won't be able to finger blast your partner for a couple days while your hand is in a cast. But it's not a long game, thankfully, so the risk of severe carpal tunnel is relatively low. I did remember that my Conba joystick had a turbo option at the end of my first playthrough, and that came in real handy, and I used it through my entire second playthrough, and it was super helpful. I'm sorry for anyone that played this in the arcade and had to sit there and mash the fire button like an asshole. Modern technology makes games like this so much better, and there's only 2 buttons here, jump and fire, so this is an easy game to understand. You start the game with 2 lives, and you get 2 hits per life before you die. Unfortunately, you do not respawn where you died. This is a game with checkpoints, which I always hated in this kind of game, but they are at the very least very forgiving and will only set you back a few seconds or so, but I definitely do not appreciate the break in the action or the reset of your progress. When you die at a boss, you will respawn directly at the start of the boss, but they will have all of their life back. My first playthrough took me about an hour, but since my OBS studio, which I used to record my gameplay, crashed at the very end of my playthrough and didn't save the video, I went through it a second time and was able to complete it in about 30 minutes flat, which is typically how long it takes me to complete, if you catch my meaning. I'll be real honest with you, I feel like I do this joke in almost every video, but yeah, I'm talking about jizzing.
Things go well, I might be showing her my O face. Oh, you know what I'm talking about. Oh.
Now, it's a short game, but it's a fun one, but can also be a frustrating one. It's not an easy game when you're going into it fresh, and if you played this in arcades, I feel sorry for the $100 or so you lost beating this. But upon my second playthrough, once I was familiar with the game, it wasn't so bad, and I finished it using only a few continues. So you run left to right, and damn do you look good doing it, and that's fairly standard in a platformer. And look, I'll admit I've played games like this 1,000 times, not that I have to admit that, who gives a shit, but what matters is whether or not the developers captured the essence of what makes games like this tick. Yeah. And there definitely is a formula that many devs just can't wrap their brains around. Just ask the fine folks that made the last game I reviewed, Blue's Journey. And there's not a lot you need to know going into this one, as it plays things pretty straight. There's never really any doubt about what you're supposed to be doing or where you're supposed to be going. It throws a ton of enemies at you, and you can fire straight or up or diagonal depending on your weapon to dispatch them, or down if you're jumping to end their miserable lives. You'll run into golden birds that are your friend, and they won't hurt you, but you can kill them to gain power-ups or change weapons, which is genuinely fucked up that you murder your pal to steal their shit, but like I said, JJ has a fondness for murder. Now, there are only 4 stages in this game, and they range from bizarre to batshit insanity. Now, they're all wildly different from each other, and they each have their own unique enemies that match the scenery in the stages, which is pretty great. It keeps the game interesting and fresh. Now, there is a 5th stage, but it's not a fully fleshed out level. It's more of a boss rush, and that's not my favorite thing ever. It's kind of a cop-out by developers just to pad the length of the game and to steal more of your money, but maybe these guys were too busy dropping acid to focus on creating more levels for the game, or who knows, maybe they just didn't have the time or the money to make more levels. That being said though, the levels in this game are great and they're really well designed and probably the most memorable part of the game, so we're going to be taking a look at all of those in depth now. The first stage, Pistachioville, serves as a gateway to ease you into the insanity of the game, and it's the most tame stage in the game as far as normalcy goes. It's mostly a little town and some rolling hills, but what's really interesting here is that the stage actually features a day-night cycle, which is fairly unique to this genre. The boss in this stage is a bee, and while there's nothing crazy about that, this bee is adorable as hell, and killing it is easy enough. The second stage, called Dream Burglar, for whatever reason, is where you begin to get the notion these devs like their LSD quite a bit. I don't even really know what the hell is going on here, so I'll just play some clips to show this one off. I might just end up doing that for the next few stages because describing them is going to be a real pain in the ass. The boss here is a mask that looks like a baby. I don't know what it is, I'm sure nobody does, but like the bee, this one isn't too difficult to complete. You just gotta jump over some of his rolling attacks and constantly fire to destroy the trash he throws at you. When you defeat this one, a cute little paralyzed wombat falls out, and you can watch him bleed out as he dies before moving on to the next stage. It's adorable. The third stage has a name that doesn't mean a goddamn thing, and it's called Geometrical Paradise. Whatever, I'm almost positive the devs meant to call it Geometrical Paradise, since the stage is mostly shapes and objects that you would associate with geometry. I don't like math, so that's all I'll say about that one. Let's just play some clips. I think you're starting to get the point though. These level designs are crazy and actually pretty genius. The sad thing is that while playing the game, there is so much going on and so many things trying to kill you that you hardly notice the level design. I'm only really getting a good look at them now while reviewing my playthrough, and I'm thoroughly impressed. The boss on this stage is the easiest one of the bunch, as it's a very slow-moving robot that shoots some garbage at you that's all entirely easy to avoid. No problem beating this guy. I don't think I died at him a single time. And now, only 13 minutes in, we are at the final stage. not including the boss rush. This one is appropriately called Cosmos, and this is a little easier to explain. It takes place in space, and you'll be jumping from planets, stars, and meteors to reach the end. In this stage, you'll be fighting flying horses, centaurs, Hercules, and other astrological signs. This level can be a real pain in the ass, and there's lots of places where you can fall to your death, actually almost through the entire level, so you have to make sure you time your jumps well. I'll show a few short clips of this one, and then we'll move on to the boss. The boss here is a flying hydra, and this is the boss I had the most difficult time with, aside from the final boss. He's not exactly easy. You have to kill all 3 heads, then you have to kill a dragon that spawns after and moves about the stage at the speed of light. Hitting its head any number of times will cause the dragon to change course, so you gotta make sure you don't miss, otherwise it'll fly into you and kill the shit out of you. Finally, we have the boss rush, which is another trippy looking stage. You just go through the bosses here, and there's a checkpoint after each boss in case you die, until you fight the first form of the final boss, which I'm pretty sure was the inspiration for Terrence and Phillip from South Park.
Say, Terrence, what did the Spanish priest say to the Uranian gynecologist?
I don't know, Philip. What?
Seriously, look at this thing. That can't just be a coincidence. After killing that easily enough, if you have enough health, you can take down the stupid bug-eyed dog with the xenomorph mouth. This thing killed me 1,000 times in my first playthrough, and it's pretty hard to take down. It goes without saying, you just gotta pummel the shit out of this thing while avoiding its mouth and its run attack, though in my second playthrough, I killed this thing effortlessly, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Oh, hello. So the levels in this game, they're gorgeous, they're bright and they're colorful, and they're well designed, and quite frankly, I'm not sure if I've ever seen a run and gun quite like this one. And aesthetically speaking, this game still holds up very well, even 30 years after its release, which is pretty impressive. You guys like that? Is that what you came to see? Yeah. I liked it too. Now, while traversing through these levels, you need weapons to kill enemies with, and each weapon has unlimited ammo and lasts an indefinite amount of time until you grab something else that is dropped. You get 4 options here. You start with the tomato, which is as stupid as it sounds. It's not terrible, but it's not great either. It propels out at an arch and is fairly short-ranged. There's also a bean shot that is similar to the spread shot in Contra, but with far less range. In my opinion, this is the best weapon in the game. If you can get close enough to enemies to hit them with it, it does massive damage. Next, we have the screw, and it reminds me of the knife in Ghouls and Ghosts or Ghosts in Goblins. In fact, it fires and works exactly the same, so it might be a blatant ripoff. It's a decent and strong weapon, but it can be difficult to use sometimes because there's no diagonal shot with this one. And finally, we have the dumbest weapon of all time, the Slinky. I'm not entirely sure if that's what it actually is, but it definitely looks like a slinky to me, so that's what I'm sticking to. I suppose this one isn't terrible, but it is barely functional as an aerial weapon and mostly sticks to the ground. But after landing, it will traverse the entire screen and damage any ground enemies it runs into. It'll work in a pinch if you accidentally pick it up, but it's not my favorite weapon ever. Honestly, your best bet is just grabbing the beans and keeping it as long as you can. There are also some bonus upgrade weapons like the pumpkin shot or the bomb, and the bomb is a fucking monster of a weapon. I only saw it pop up once at the very last boss of the game on my second playthrough, and I completely annihilated him within seconds. It would have been fun to get this weapon more often because it fucking rips, but it is still fun to grab it and kill the last boss with it. There are also a few power-ups to maximize your murder quota. These can be simple like extra health and extra life, or they can enhance your weapon with power-ups like the power shot, which makes your projectiles bigger, faster, and fly farther, and the excess shot, which allows you to fire more projectiles on the screen. I'm starting to feel the effects of the rum here, but we got like 2 live takes to do, and I think we can power through this. We're going to talk about the music in this game before we get to the amazing ending, which is just mind-blowing. Now, the music in this game, it's fun and it's whimsical. There's a unique score for every stage here, except for the boss sequences. They all share the same theme. But the music in this game matches the visuals that you'll see on the screen very well. I think it's very well done, actually. And I'm just going to show you some clips here. Fucking... Ultimately, the music isn't going to win any awards, but it's well done and it fits the game. And that brings us to your reward for completing this one. In case you were wondering what the story was here, this ending tries to give you a story and wrap it up at the same time, and it doesn't make any fucking sense whatsoever. Just like in Blue's Journey, I'll play the entire ending for you. Buckle up because it's going to be an insane 21-second thrill ride. Did you catch it? Your guess is as good as mine what any of that meant, but it sure felt good to get some closure. It definitely looks like Squawkers let the main bad guy live because he promised not to do any more bad things, but I don't understand why he would when he murdered almost everything else. I guess our hero has a heart of pure gold after all. Now, there's no real bonus to completing the game aside from that satisfying ending, but it does allow you to start the game over in what could be described as hard mode.
Hard mode!
Really, all you'll be getting here is the same game with faster enemies that have more health. Not much to it. Ultimately, this is a really fun game to go through, and it's a short experience, so it's one you can fit into your busy schedule, you professional asshole. The game grows on you, and I'll admit that on my first playthrough, I almost didn't enjoy a majority of my time playing it, and if my game capture didn't fail forcing me to play it a second time, this review might have gone another way. But on my second playthrough, once I got a feel for the game, I found myself immensely enjoying it. This is a good run and gun, and it's unfortunate it never made its way out of Japan for an international release, or even a release on consoles, though this game might have been a little too short for that. Thankfully, we live in an age where games like this one can be found easily online and played in MAME, which I suggest you do if this one looks good to you. There you go, you little cuties. That's JJ Pissin' shit for you. Now, I really enjoyed this one, and I think that if you give this one a modest chance and maybe give it a couple playthroughs, I think you'll really enjoy it too if you're a fan of this genre. Thanks for watching, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you on the next one.
I was right in the middle of a fucking reptile zoo. And somebody was giving booze to these goddamn things. It won't be long now before they tear us to shreds.